Okay, I've got my little spiel here. Okay, good evening and welcome everyone to the Stammer Club competition meeting. We've been doing Zoom meetings and, well, the hybrid meetings for 3 months now, June, July, and August. And it's going very well. And it looks like we have more participation with the Zoom than we do in the room here. But that's fine. Eventually they'll come back to the room when we find out what good goodies we have to eat and the hors d'oeuvres later on. I am Gwen Patton and I'm the vice president, and I'm standing in tonight for Victoria, and she is on vacation. I would like to introduce our judge, or acknowledge Wendy, our judge tonight. But you will be formally introduced by Cliff when we get into our competition. But glad to have you here, Wendy.
Thank you.
One thing I would like to do tonight is introduce any new members who have joined since January. Because I think as a club, we don't even know who these new people are a lot of times. And we don't recognize the names, we don't recognize their faces. So let's start with the room, in this room. Okay, I see 2 people here that are new members. Am I right? Marilyn and David. And you just joined last month, Marilyn, right?
Actually, it's been 2 or 3 months ago, but I just started coming.
She was a member for 20 years.
Yeah.
Back in the olden days.
And David, you joined in the spring, right? Okay, so glad to have you too. Okay, so now we'll go to Zoom and see if there's any new members that are on Zoom that joined after January.
I
If
did.
there are, okay, Teresa?
Yeah, I just joined.
Okay, well, welcome, Teresa. Glad
Thank
to
you.
have you. And are there any more new members that are on Zoom that joined since January? Okay, it looks like not. Well, how about guests that are on Zoom? Are there any guests on Zoom?
Yes, we've got Kim, who's a guest. Kim, if you can unmute yourself, and if you want to talk a little bit about yourself, how you found us, those kind of things.
Hi, I'm Kim, and I found y'all in a Google search for photography clubs in the Denver area. I've been doing photography off and on since I was probably 12, so it's been a bit.
Well, thank you, Kim. And you can find anything you need on our very well done website, focuscolorado.com. And I don't think there are any guests in the room, so that takes care of that. So does anyone have anything they would like to share with the club before we start our competition? If not, Cliff can go ahead with starting the competition. He is our competition chairman. So we'll let Cliff take it away.
All right, thanks, Gwen. Yeah, so welcome everyone to the August competition. And our judge tonight is Wendy Gedack, and she's joining us from Colorado Springs. So happy to have her here. And our theme this month is details. So that's what the images that we'll be seeing today. We have almost 40 images by my count. So a good number to go through. So I'll just, a brief intro on Wendy. She's a nature and landscape photographer living in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Her keen eye for photography can be visualized through her ability to capture light and depth, drama and character of a scene that was born out of a deep appreciation and desire to be surrounded by nature. Her daily inspiration comes from that magnificence that surrounds her in Colorado. She's often amazed by the grandeur of the Rocky Mountain landscape each time she ventures out or returns to a location, whether it be the changing seasons, time of the day, or the fog lurking over the terrain. She notices something unique and original. Her love for nature and the outdoors inspired her over the years to take photographs that define experiences and encapsulate the emotion she feels when traveling to various scenic areas. So Wendy, thanks for joining us. Are there any other words you want to offer, to the group or?
I don't think so. Just thank you for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for inviting me back. I know I did this either last year or the year before last, and it was a pleasure to be able to do the critique and just appreciate you guys having me back.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. So we'll get into the end of the competition. It's the usual format. Bob will present the image. I'll read the title. Wendy will provide some commentary on it, and we'll move on. Then after we've accumulated a handful of images that have scored 9 or 10, 5 to 7 or so, I'll just mention, hey, we'll take a pause. We'll circle back and review those 9s and 10s and give the photographer an opportunity to say a few words about their image. So without anything further, if you're joining, please put yourself on mute for now so we eliminate any background noise, and we'll just go ahead and get started here. So first image here is the wings.
Wings. Just to start out, I just really love that lime green background. It's really pops out at the screen to me. And then I do really like the orange tip on the wing off to the right. It adds some great contrast, as well as the design of the wing. I like the zoomed in effect. I think even though that there might be some dead space up to the left, that I don't know if that's a reflection or what that is in the blurred background, but it fills in that space enough for me that it works well, I think, for this photo. I did notice because it seemed like the tip of the wing off to the right might be a little out of focus. I feel like it's more in focus as you move to the left down the wing. So that just bothers me a little bit, but it's a great, nice zoomed in image. And I would score this an 8.
Evil Eye.
It's a great title for this one. It's a great view of it, zooming in on a smaller section of this. I don't know if it's an alligator or a crocodile, but anyway, it's really well done. I feel like it's nice. The eye is nicely in focus, and I can see the nice texture on the skin of the animal. It has some great contrast with the black. I do like that. The only thing I would suggest is maybe there's just a little bit of a hot area, maybe on the eye a little bit, and maybe towards the I don't really have a pointer. I don't know, but I'm using my mouse to point around, but I don't think you guys are seeing that. But towards the front of the eye on the skin part, maybe just a little bit hotter. I might just bring down the highlights and that a little bit. But great detail. I mean, I just really love the focus, and nice job getting the eye in focus too. It does, for me, it pops out at me with the green eye, has that wow factor to me. So I would score this at 10, even though I would maybe just bring down the highlights a little bit.
Grimy gears.
Nice. I really like the black and white on this. I think it was a great choice for the gears. I think it's really effective with that. It draws my attention into where the gears are, and my eye kind of gets drawn into that area, which I believe is the point of the photographer. And like I said, the black and white does definitely go very well with this. I would just maybe up the contrast a bit for me, just to give a little bit more delineation between the black and the white. I think I like that little bit more of a punch, but I think this is very well done, and I would give this image a 9.
Leatrice.
This is, I love the purple in this, and just the hint of green in the corners. I can see, and I did view this. It's really interesting with the patterns and stuff. But I did view, like I said, I did view these on my actually 2 different computer monitors. But when I zoom in on this, I do see a little bit of graininess. And I don't know if that was just from contrast or zooming in. And there is a little bit of chromatic aberration, but not too bad in the darker areas. And just a little bit of the blown out highlights. I did feel like they were a little bit too hot in some spots. I mean, not like overblown out, but I think bringing down the light a little bit on this one even would help this image. It's just a little distracting to my eye because of those. I don't know if those are stems or what those are that are coming out, but I would score this one 7.
Fanfare.
This is really interesting. I think with all the rain and stuff that we've been having this year, we've been seeing a lot more of mushrooms and this type of thing growing in the wild. But I've been tempted myself just to get out and take some pictures of some of these. So I appreciate that. I also, on this image, I think for me, if you would have zoomed in even just a little bit more, just cropped in a little bit more on these fans of the mushroom, that may have been a little bit more interesting in my opinion. I feel like the grass may be a little distracting for me in the background, but I like how you did capture the fullness of the mushrooms in this section. I also feel like just either more of a bokeh in the background or more of a blur, and or cropping in more to get the detail of those nice, looks like the fans of the mushroom there. I think that would add a lot more interest and get some of the distracting elements out of the picture. I would score this one a 7.
Beached in Hawaii.
This is a lovely shot. I really like the tonal contrasts in this with the natural tones of the browns and the blacks, and even some yellow in there on the, looks like some kind of boat in there. I really like how the angle on this, looking down, it's a great perspective. It's what I think the way that the boat contrasts, especially with that black trim or the black rim against that lighter sand color, is really interesting. I think the only thing that I would do differently on this image is making either a little bit more contrast between the sand and the boat, but really it's not. I think it's more of a personal choice. I think if you brought down the brightness of the sand, it might, because of the black around the boat, it might not go as well as this nice contrast. But I would give this image a 9.
Buick.
This is a great image of an older car, and I love the black and white. I mean, I think that goes really well. And it looks like the way it's cropped in, it's almost like a panoramic, which is really interesting. Really brings in the nice detail of the chrome and the shine. I really like the choice, definitely, of black and white here is a great, was a great choice, and great contrast too, with the tonal range. I think it looks really great. And the angle, I do like the angle on this image. I think the only thing I would do differently, and I think it would be a matter of personal choice, is maybe add a little bit more of the top part of the image into it, and not crop it so much on that end. But it almost looks, I mean, the other thing I would add is it's just really cool how it almost looks like a musical instrument down where the grill is. I don't know. It is a really cool shot. So I would give this image a 10.
Barking up the wrong tree.
This is a really cool effect. If I hadn't had the title, I don't think I would have noticed right away that it was bark. Almost looks like a bunch of shells, or I think because of the texture and everything, it looks really interesting, and it does make me want to kind of look around more and just take in the different colors, just the details of the bark. I like the just the different tones in here. The focus is really great. Just a really interesting section of the tree. The only thing I would do differently here is maybe up the contrast a little bit to add a little bit more contrast, maybe adding in a little bit more blacks, and then and that might give it a little bit more pop and detail interest. But otherwise, I think it's a great image, and I would score this one a 9.
1947 Pontiac hood ornament.
This is great. I like I really like it's almost like a panoramic also crop here. And I think it works really well with this image. The tonal contrasts are great with the sky. You can see a little bit of the reflection of the blue in that chrome too. And I think that adds some great interest there. The clouds really do it for me too, because there's not a lot of dead space. If it was just blue sky, I'm not sure it would work as well for this image, but I really like the clouds, it looks like. Definitely see a sense of movement. The angle on it is really great. It's nice and sharp focus on the hood element there itself. Great tonal contrast, like I said. I think it's really, really interesting, and not too oversaturated in any area. I feel like it's almost more of a subdued saturation, but it goes very well with these tones, the blues and the tan there. And I would score this image a 10.
Backlit datura details.
This is very interesting. I couldn't really tell what this was, but it's really interesting with its grooves, and the lines. The leading lines are great in this. Also just the different textures, and I do like that it's backlit, making that glow come through on those different sections of this image. I did zoom in on it, and I couldn't tell on that bottom right hand side. It almost looked like dust spots, or it might just be on that datura. I think for me it's just a little bit distracting, so I would maybe take those, or like spot heal them out or Photoshop them out somehow. And then I did feel like it was a little bit of a soft focus on it. But other than that, I think it's really interesting to have zoomed in to get the detail. But that being said, I think just because of the soft focus and the, I feel like those spots are a little distracting. I would give this a 7.
Old-fashioned entry system.
This is very interesting image up close. I always like doors like this. It reminds me of old European doors, or maybe some church building or something like that. And I love when people zoom in and get more detail on the wood structures. And I like the colors and the contrast here too. Great focus. And I think here I would just add a little bit more contrast to bring out some more of that wood texture and the lock on the door, and maybe that door handle, bring out some of that texture a little bit more, just with some contrast. But the lighting looks great. I do like the composition of it, just the way it's, doesn't have to be ever, it doesn't have to be off center or whatever. Centered works well here for me. And I would give this image a 9.
Nuts. I think we'll stop after this one, Wendy, and circle
Okay.
back, review some of the 9s and 10s. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, this is a great cropped in image. Very interesting with those nuts and bolts on this. It's not black and white. Like a lot of times people will just go right towards the black and white. I feel like it's more of a sepia tone, which I think works really well for this image. I love the focus is great. I like the little bit of a subtle darker background. I would almost just even make that a little bit darker just to give that light and dark contrast there. But I think it works very well with this image. The composition is great, how it was cropped in. I love the details and the tones that you picked. Whoever did this image with the sepia tone, I think it was a great choice. I would give this image a 10.
So Evil Eye. This is Joe Bonita. Is Joe on? Okay, he did have a comment here. This is the eye of the face. This is the eye on the face of a large African reptile. So that's it for comments.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what it was, but
Thanks, Joe. Grimy Gears. And this is actually my image. So thanks for your comments on this, Wendy. Yeah, it's just one of my dad's old cameras. And I actually combined 2 images here to get the lighting from different angles. But
nice.
just, yeah, put it in Silver Effects Pro to convert to black and white. And I did bump up the contrast, but yeah, it's I can see where, more can help with this. So appreciate that. Thanks.
No problem.
Is Beached in Hawaii is Bill Dixon. Is Bill on?
In Hawaii, and saw this partially submerged canoe, and it was right in the water, and this part of it was sticking up a little bit, and so I liked the articles on it and the various colors, and took my eye.
Definitely.
All right, thanks, Bill. And this is Buick. This is Larry Hartlaub.
Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, this was taken at Parker a couple of weeks ago, and they had a few cars out, and I think this was really the only. Well, there's two classic cars. This was one of them, and I used a 17mm lens, exclusively in Lightroom, and I really like the masking tool. I'm using that a lot more. And of course, all the sliders, and I wanted to I like the black and white. I want to be bold with it, and not kind of pussyfoot around, but really try to have an impact. But thank you for your comments, Wendy.
Nice image.
Great, thanks, Larry. Barking up the wrong tree. This is Sean Slade.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Wendy, for the comments. I can't remember where I was hiking, but love the colors and the texture of this lodgepole pine, and snapped this photo with my iPhone. And then in Photoshop, use some luminosity masks to try and bring out some of the different hues that are
Nice.
present. And you're not the first person who's mentioned something about contrast to me. I must like softer tones, because I've gotten comments about more pop here and there, but I appreciate the thoughts.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. 1947 Pontiac hood ornament, Dave Hall.
Mike, but Wendy, I greatly appreciate your comments. More than anything about these old classic cars, I'm drawn to these hood ornaments. They're just so unique. And so much thought went into them with these old cars. Didn't do too much to this image. There were a lot of little rust spots that I clone stamped out, changed a little bit of the contrast, did some dodging and burning. But other than that, I just didn't do much in terms of processing.
Great, thanks, Dave. And we can hear you just fine. So,
Okay.
Old-fashioned entry system, this is Gwen Patton.
Yeah, that was taken in St. Augustine. And I might add that this was way more contrasty looking on my computer than it shows on this screen. But I appreciate your comments.
Sure. No problem.
Yeah, thanks, Gwen. And nuts, this is Terry Hanford.
This was a locomotive and a train museum up in Wyoming. In terms of the tones, I changed this to black and white in Lightroom. And then I went into the color toning and put a little bit of blue toning to the shadow and a little bit of yellow to the highlights. And I think it made a little bit of color as well as tonal contrasting that helped the picture. So thanks for your comments, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Terry. All right, that's all the review images for now. All right, if the moon isn't cheese, why the teeth marks?
Great title there. I love the image here. Before I start too on this section, I just have to say that I appreciate everybody doing this project of getting the detail and zooming in, and because I've been trying, I do grand landscapes most of the time, and I've been trying to force myself to really focus in on more of the details. And it is not easy. A lot of times it's not easy to get out the distractions and focus in. So you guys have done a great job with these images. And this one has great focus, and I like the texture on the moon. I really think it's very interesting how the clouds were making it look even more eerie. I feel like if it was just a straight line across, or like you normally see, it doesn't have as, you see moons constantly like that, I guess, or images like that. But this is a unique take on the moon. Like I said, I think the contrasts look great. The focus looks really great on the moon too, and I like the crop on this. I would give this image a 9.
Cobble beach detail.
This is a great image. It really stood out to me as I looked at it. I feel like it's almost a sculpture in like a studio lighting or something like that, but it looks like it's a very natural rock that's just out in nature. And the contrasts on this are fantastic. The lighting on that almost looks like a heart rock there in the middle is just beautiful. It gives it such a great contrast with the black rocks underneath. And I also like those few black rocks at the top. the tonal contrast with that line against the black and the grains and the different textures on here really work well also. It's a very textured image throughout, but I think the nice subdued black background just really makes this center rock pop, as well as the colors on the center rock. I just feel like it's a very well lit center rock too. It's just really brings it to attention. The composition is great too. I really like a lot about this image. It's a nice kind of abstract look piece too. I'd give this a 10.
Edison's Laboratory.
It's good. This is a interesting image with the, I like the concept of the 3 different shelves and the different spices, or not spices, it's Edison's. This must be some kind of medicine, all the different medicines and some kind of apothecary or something. Anyway, I think I would just change it. The only thing that I would suggest is I feel like it's just looking straight on at the shelves. And I did take the opportunity just to, because I thought, well, I'll just zoom in and out and see if it looks better just at different angles. I think either zoomed in and just including a few of the bottles might be better for the title of the contest. I also did, I almost feel like instead of a horizontal image, that this might work better as a vertical image. I did kind of crop it vertically, and that seemed to be a little more interesting to me and draw the eye in. But otherwise, I think, it's an interesting take on this. I would give this a 7.
At the Open Market.
It's a great title. Makes you want to just pick up one of those peaches and eat it. But no, just looking, I like the angle of this, looking down at the plate. I think the color contrasts are great with it's almost like I feel like a greenish black tone, and there's some texture in those holders there, which adds some interest, especially in contrast to the smoother peach and the nice, peachy color. It looks, the colors look great here. I think the only thing that's distracting me is it is that white piece of paper with the 72 on it. It's a little distracting. And if I put my hand over it and take it out of the image, I feel like it does help it a little bit. But I do like the angle looking down, and like I said, the color contrast and the differences in texture. But I would score this one an 8.
Wheels.
This is really a cool image too of these, I would say, a train gears. Doesn't look like it's operational anymore, but I like the sense of movement from behind and the angle that this was shot at. I also like, because of the rust and the rust and just the metal detail on it, I feel like it has more of a subtle tone to it, which is, I think, works well for this image. It feels like there was just enough ground included in the crop that it does, in it, as well as the angle that it was shot at, it gives a sense of like this could be movement. And I do like the details and the contrast in it. I think for this image too, it works well just to have a little bit of that green grass in there. It just adds something, kind of the weeds in there adds something to the old feel of the image, and I appreciate that. I would give this image a 9.
latch on.
This is another one kind of close to the doors, the door from earlier, which I really like that when you could focus in on this type of lock and the textures that you can see when it's a very artistic feel to me. The chipped paint, that it's almost bluish purple in spots, and some green in there too. It has those color ranges like really great on that old wood, and then in contrast with the nice metal parts of it. Great focus. Also, I like the just the zoomed in effect, and also the being able to draw out those textures. I think the only thing I would maybe change is just a little, for me, it's the composition just a little bit. It's distracting a little bit on the left-hand side, that one bolt. If it had either been shifted, the whole thing just shifted over to the right just a little bit more, or include a little bit more of that wood. It almost looks like it's gonna crop off that, the bolt, which isn't a horrible thing, but it is a little bit distracting to me. But I would score this a 9.
This old house.
This looks like it definitely is zoomed in on some kind of beam of an old house or a cabin of some sort. And it really draws your eye into the grain of this wood and the different layers and the textures. I really do like the tones on it. I think it works well. It's interesting because it looks like there's a little bit of cement pieces that are holding, I guess, supporting some of that, some of those beams. But it's interesting to see the wood with the cement. I just really like the color contrast and the tones in this too. I would almost add just a little bit more contrast and just to bring out some of that wood grain. I think sometimes adding in a little bit more black can give that contrast and give more detail, especially when you're zoomed in at this level. But I would give this image a score of an 8.
Truck brake.
This is just one of those, has those wow factors for me. It just really stands out, I feel like, especially, and the black and white works just great with this. I feel like even though it's a cropped in image, it has a great storytelling component to it for me. The reflection of the hand in the cigarette works really well for the composition. Of course, the black and white contrasts are great. It's almost like studio lighting here too. I feel like with the way it's lit. And then just that it's an elderly hand, I think that adds to the whole, the image. And you can see a little bit of the smoke just trilling up from the cigarette. I really, really appreciate this image. And it's perfect. It looks great, zoomed in, great focus. And like I said, the contrasts are great. Black and white's perfect. The lighting looks great. So I would score this a 10.
Cutting corn.
This is really a neat image too. I think this is interesting. The details, the way it's zoomed in, just seeing this man's hands. And I think it's great focus, as well as a nice blurred background. There's not too much distracting around, yet you get the little pieces of corn that are on the table. I feel like it's got great detail in the hands as well as the corn, and it's interesting having a little bit of the tattoo on his arm, adds some interest there, artistic interest to me, but I do like the zoomed in effect here. And I don't think it's not that it's hot or anything, but just the little white parts of the corn, I feel like if the highlights could be pulled back just a little bit, it would help just not draw my eye directly to those spots, but it's, like I said, it's not a hot spot, but I would still give this image a 10.
Bumble Paradise.
This is a happy image. It's a very pretty image. I do like the focused in on the flower and the bumblebee, so you can see the nice details of both the flowers and the bee. I love the blurred background, looks great. Gets away any of the distractions. It has also is a nice color scheme here in contrast. I do feel like, and I did see this image larger, that the eyes on the eye on the bumblebee could be a little sharper. I feel like it loses some sharpness as you come up from the bottom part of the bee to the top, but that would be the only thing. And I know it's really hard to do that when you're shooting a moving insect like that, but there's been so many times where I probably have thousands of images of bees just trying to get it in focus. And but I just really think the composition is great, the contrast is great. I really like the blurred background. So I'd give this image an 8.
Lashes and Stripes.
This is a fun image with patterns, with the zebra. I believe it's zebra here. The lighting on the eye is really interesting. It does draw your attention kind of right to the eye area. And then the details of the lashes look really interesting too. I do like the stripes and the patterns, and then just the focus in this area works really well. And then composition wise too, where the eye, where the eye crop looks great. I do like the subtle brown tones also in it. For me, I would just maybe bump up the contrast a little bit. That would be the only thing that I think would make it a little more, it would pop a little more. Either that, or it'd be really interesting to see this as a black and white photo also. I could see that being really, really nice, but I would score this a 9.
Sonata.
This is a really great crop of an angle. I know sometimes you could be tempted to shoot this like straight on, but this angle is really interesting and unique. The lighting, the side lighting coming in, I think really adds a lot of interest to and shows the nice detail of the instrument with all and the shadows that it's creating. I really appreciate that. I think like I said, the crop looks really interesting. It does draw my eye in to look at all different kinds of detail and different sections of this image. And I also do like the kind of subtle tones in it, with the kind of reds and greens, and then the tans also. I think I would like to score this one 9.
Races.
This is really a cool angle on this image. I like the tonal contrast. I do really appreciate the black and white again on this. I think the black and white goes really well. And I feel like especially with the chrome and the color of the car, the black and white just really adds some nice pop and contrast. I like the lighting on the grill. Really, that's seems to pop out at me. Only thing that was a little distracting for me on this image, and I'm not sure if it would be personal taste or preference, but I can see the reflection of the photographer in the chrome lights. And that I don't know if that would be like something that you would want to crop out, or not crop out, but heal out, or but I would still give this image a 9. I think that the only thing that would make it a 10 for me would be just not seeing the reflection there.
Okay. And we'll stop after this next one to do a review. All right,
Okay.
tiny bubbles.
Okay, this is a real fun image. I've been wanting to do some of these shots with the bubbles like this for a while. I really like the blues and the white go really well together, and just a lot of interesting contrast as you zoom in on this. I did feel like it had a little bit of a soft focus, and I'm not sure if that was intentional for this image or not, but it does look like a cool abstract here. I would score this one a 7.
Yeah, if the moon is some cheese, why the teeth marks is Brian Donovan.
I took that this month. It was the last super moon of the year. Shot it at 1,000 millimeters. And yeah, I thought the clouds were funny. It kind of looked like teeth marks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Cobble Beach detail. This is Ron Schaller. Is Ron on? Ron Schaller. No notes from him on this. Wheels. This is Butch Mizuka.
You know what? I took this so long ago, I don't even recall. I remember it was down in Eagle, and I remember taking the shot. So when I saw details, I figured it would fit. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Latch on. This is Victoria Ashby, and I know she's not on, so the note she has is, shot this old gate for the colors and the hardware. Is that? And this is Truck Break from Steve Wilton.
Yeah, after a 45-minute frustrating attempt at woodland photography, I came out to the parking lot and saw this guy sleeping in his truck. He was asleep while the cigarette was going. He had his head on the steering wheel, so I zeroed in on this. Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a great image.
Cutting corns, Allie Green. Allie on. She does have a note here. In Argentina at a winery, this chef was preparing an asado or barbecue. I like the details of his hands cutting the corn. The bigger picture shows the whole of the chef. So she apparently cropped in on this.
That's great.
And Lashes and Stripes, this is Joe Bonita. This is a portion of the face of a zebra. And Sonata, this is David Besson.
Thanks. Yeah, this was actually an experiment in focus stacking. So it's actually a composite of about 20 captures that merged together. But thanks for the feedback, Wendy. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks, David. And then finally, Braces, this is Larry Hertlow.
Wendy's got the eagle eye. I should have called this a selfie. But,
Sorry.
but it's the same car show in Parker, and I like. They look like somebody's mouth with their braces.
Yeah.
To straighten their teeth, but I was trying to get something with the ground. If I made it darker, then it would just kind of blend in with the ground. But I appreciate your comments, Wendy. Thanks very much.
No problem.
Although I don't know how I could. I at first tried to darken the headlights to, so I would not be in there, but then it looked kind of weird. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know how to do it except not take the photo.
Right.
Sparky.
I like the name on this one because I immediately saw that it kind of looks like a face with the two upper bolts, the spark coming out being the nose and like that black stripe being the mouth. And maybe even the other bolt being a tongue. I thought that was that might just be my interpretation, but I do like the tonal contrast in here. It has some interesting detail and composition looks great. I think what makes more for this shot is that lime green color helps it pop out for me. And like I said, it has some nice detail on this image. I would give this an 8.
Nature's palette details in marble.
I'm assuming because of the title, it's a close-up of marble, but it almost looks like it's a beach scene, which is really interesting. I really like the crop on it. I think it gives some great detail and texture. It also has some interesting patterns, very abstract looking. I like the angle it was shot at with the lines coming, diagonally throughout the scene. I think that adds a lot of interest, as well as the different tonal layers and that nice red, that reddish rust color coming through the upper portion really adds to the image for me too. I think for me, I'm going back to the contrast, but I think I like bold contrast, and I would just add a little bit more contrast. That's really the only thing I would do to the image, and maybe add a little bit more color, but I think the color tones also work really well with this image. But I would score this a 9.
Dodge oldie.
It's a great crop on this. It's really interesting with the, I like the vines coming in and out of the front of the grill. I think that the grill area. The rust on this adds some nice contrast with that blue. I like that it has Dodge on there. I think the only thing that would be a little that I would change or just add is maybe a little bit more contrast again, and kind of darken that grill area in the back. Would add a little bit more contrast. It would also, I don't know, maybe would try different angles instead of just straight head on. But otherwise, I think it's a great cropped in image. I would score this an 8.
Hand me 4 AA batteries.
This is interesting. I'm really interested. When I first saw this image, I'm like, what is this? So it'd be interesting to hear what this was, an actual image, the larger of this, making this the smaller portion of it. But it does draw my eye in to look around and just view the different components on this machinery. I think the composition is great with where you zoomed in, because I think sometimes it can be really hard on something like this to weed out some of the distracting areas. I would even suggest zooming in even closer, maybe even on that right hand side to those, I don't know what you call them, but they have different colors, the red, blue, green component on there. I think that would be really interesting to see even closer up. The only other thing I would maybe do differently is, although I think the color and the subtle tones work well here, is maybe changing it to black and white and seeing what that would look like might be interesting. But I would score this an 8.
Bristle cone detail.
This is really an interesting image. I think this makes for a great abstract photo. I love the textures and the contrasts are great in this image with the blacks and the browns. And I really like the swirls and the great texture. I think the crop on it is great too. The lighting is really nice. The focus looks great. Don't really think I would add anything different. And like I said, this is one of those images I do like the contrast, and I think it's just enough and not too much where you can see the nice grains, and the black definitely adds, I think, to this image. I would score this at 10.
Locked Gate, Williamsburg.
I really like the crop on this. I think the shadows add some nice detail from the side lighting here. Must be the time of day. And then I'm not sure what that plant must have been, but whatever that is adds some great brown contrast to the lock area. I really do like the details of the lock and the wood grain against the wood grain. It adds some interest, like I said, with the plant, the dead, I don't know if it's seaweed or what that is, but yeah, it's a nice contrasting image with that black lock and the whiter wood background on the door. I think the lighting might just be a little harsh for me, but it's not blown out, but just maybe back off on the light a little bit or the exposure. But other than that, I would give this image a 9.
Graphic design.
And this will be interesting to find out where this was taken from or of. I was trying to figure it out, but it does make for a cool abstract. And the color scheme, I think, is really cool with the red, white, and blue. And then also it looks like, I don't know if it's a metal grate or whatever that is over there, but adds some different texture compared to the wood and that background. I think just looking straight on it might not give as much of an impact for me. And then maybe trying a different angle or cropping in a little bit more. But I think just looking straight on at the image, it falls a little flat in my opinion, but I would score this one a 7.
Up close and personal.
This is really a great image of, it has definitely that wow factor. When I first saw it, it looks like studio lighting to me with that black background, and then how these, I believe they're ducks or some kind of owl, and they're just having the 3 of them like this too, and just one eye on each of them that you can see. I think that's so interesting. Instead of seeing both eyes and there's just the one eye on each of them, I think that's very effective. And just the way that they're intertwined around each other, the beaks, the way that they're encircling each other goes really well. The lighting is fantastic. Whoever took this image should be very proud. It's just a great image all the way around. I would give this a 10.
Isaac.
Now on this one, I think it's a great image, but I'm almost wondering if it wouldn't fit better in a different category, because I feel like it's more of a portrait. I don't know if I should score this or not.
Yeah, yeah, if you'd like, you could just disqualify it, and then
Yeah,
we
like
could, the
re-enter it.
photographer could enter it in a subsequent contest.
That's what I would suggest on this one, because I feel like it doesn't fit the category for me, but
Okay. Fender light.
this is one of those that if the title really helped me too, because I didn't know, I wouldn't have known what it was initially, but this is really a cool image. The way the angle that it was shot at, I do like, it's not straight on, it's a kind of a lower angle looking up. The clouds also really help that dead space over there to the upper right-hand corner. It adds a lot of detail. And I don't know, I think for me, if you didn't have those white clouds in there, this blue on blue might not go as well, but the blue on blue actually goes great with this, the lighter color blue against the blue sky. And I think for me, it's because of the white in the car and the truck and the clouds in the sky. And then you got this nicely placed pop of kind of copper tone there with the light. It's a really great cropped image, and like the tone contrast, great focus on the light itself and the car leading into the scene. So I would give this image a 10.
And ready to ride.
Looks like a nice old Harley here, some type. I think the image looks great with the kind of the rust color on the tank, in contrast with the emblem at the top on the chrome. I really do like the chrome and kind of rusty contrast there. I think for me, I did feel like the background was a little distracting for whatever reason, even though it is blurred. I see that. I did kind of zoom in and crop this at as a vertical image with just the speedometer and that in the main, or put it in the center with the emblem. And that I felt like worked better as a vertical image, but it may be just my taste on that. But it has nice focus on the speedometer. And I would say I would give this image a 7.
Okay, and that is all the images tonight. If we could just review this last batch of 9s and 10s. This is Nancy Meyer. Is Nancy on? Nancy notes, taken several years ago at the marble quarry near Redstone, Colorado. This was an unfinished slab of marble. Thanks, Nancy. Next, this bristle cone detail, it's Ron Schaller. And he has no notes. And then locked gate, Williamsburg, Bill Rothenmeier. Is Bill on? He just said taken at Williamsburg, Virginia. And up close and personal is Butch Mazuka.
I want to take a minute or two because I think there's a lesson in here. I shot this last spring at a rookery in St. Augustine. I was at least 20 yards from the net, and I shot it with a 500 focal length. But even at with the 500 millimeter focal length, only about 15% of the frame was filled with the chicks. Anyway, I shot it. My settings were ISO, auto ISO with -1.5 stops exposure compensation, f11 at 1/3200th of a second handheld. I had a good histogram, and this is what I think is interesting. I opened and expanded internal range and reduced the highlights in Lightroom. Then I sent it to Topaz Denoise, which created a TIFF file, and then back to Lightroom, where I enhanced it because I knew that I was going to have to crop out at least 85% of it. So I used Lightroom's enhance feature. Okay, then I took the enhanced image into total contrast, which also creates a TIFF, total contrast in the Nick suite. But I didn't like the background. I thought it was great on the chicks, but I didn't like the background. Okay, so what I did is I took the two TIFFs and I blended them in Photoshop to give me the high contrast subject and the low contrast background. Okay, but I still could not figure out how to get rid of the distractions because 80% of that image was brambles, branches, mergers, dark spots, etc. So the first time I did this, I used the Lightroom masking feature. I created a mask using select subject, inverted it, and moved the shadow slider to -100 all the way to the left. I did that at least 3 or 4 times before I was able to darken all the distracting elements to solid black. And I'm telling you, 85% of that image was distracting. Okay, I might add that masking around the chick's feathers took a couple hours. I then took the image in the silver effect. But the image didn't pop. So I took it in the Silver Effects Pro in the next suite, converted it to monochrome, added some contrast, and now I had a high contrast monochrome image back into Photoshop for some minor dodging and burning, sharpened it, and then finally back to Lightroom where I cropped it because I wanted to give it an artsy feel. Yeah. Cliff, I know you remember Larry Treadwell.
Yeah.
Larry's given me 4 different international competitions he wants me to enter this into.
Oh, that's great.
He told me that this was the best image of mine he's ever seen. So anyway, I wanted to brag a little bit, but I love this shot. It doesn't show up very well on my screen. I hope you can see it, but this image is tack sharp. Anyway, thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Butch. Pretty much straight out of camera, huh?
Yeah. I kept trying to figure out how did he get these chicks to like hold still like that. I don't especially with that background, you know.
It started off as a zebra.
Yeah, right.
Right. No, that's cool. Thanks for the explanation.
It's really cool.
It's just very persistent with that too, to get the look you're looking for.
Yeah, it's great.
Fender light. This is Steve Wilton.
Yeah, this was taken at a small junkyard in Dacona, which is east of Boulder and east of I-25. Thanks, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Comments?
All right, and that is all the images. So, Wendy, want to really thank you tonight for your judging and all the great comments. Appreciate you taking the time in your evening to do that, and for your time ahead of time to review the images. So. I know we all appreciate the very specific comments and recommendations and stuff. So
great, good. Now there was some great images. It was fun to be able to see what you guys chose for this subject matter. Just keep shooting, keep getting out there.
Yeah,
that's great. You guys have a good thing going here, especially with the different. Just different competitions that you're have up there. So it gets people to experiment with some different kind of photography. I think that's great.
Okay. Well, thank you. I don't know if
Thank
there's
you.
any parting comments from anyone. Glenn, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I don't think so. Just thank you, Wendy, for judging.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, well, yeah, if nothing else, everyone, thanks for your time this evening, and we'll see you back on the program night in September. All right.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Wendy.
And Bill and Dave and everyone there at Lone Tree, thanks so much for setting things up there on site and getting the cameras going and all that, all the on-site tech support. And Carl, really appreciate that. Went really well tonight. Bob, thanks for the images presentation. I think we had a pretty good technical pretty technical showing tonight. So
That's great.
thanks for that. All right, everyone. Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
So I hear yours.